Moving ahead with the plan, a cross-training exercise. We often hear someone say rather wistfully, "I guess all good things come to an end." But isn't it terrific that we don't have to say that here? Your quest to be a stronger, more authentic, and compassionate artist is not ending just because you've come to the end of the book. Depending on where you are on the continuum, you are either just beginning or joyously continuing, and it's all good. Now's the time to develop a few strategies. Decide whom you will confide in, where you will seek support, and how you will continue to focus on making distinctive, heartfelt work. I applaud all of those efforts, and I hope to hear from you. I'd love to know how it's going, and you can email me anytime. But before you write to me, consider doing these things. First of all, write. Write a strategy for strengthening and continuing the progress you've made by working with this book. Make a list. Write a paragraph. Be specific. Generalities won't get you anywhere. What are your specific intentions? Write them down. And then recite them. Read your list or statement out loud to the mirror or to someone you trust. If we were in a classroom, we would read our intentions to each other, but we don't have that luxury. It's important to verbalize your intentions, however. Get your heart and head working in tandem and then seal the deal by speaking it out loud. Artists respond. On page 130 of the Creative Strength Training book, Adrienne Buffington has some pictures of some beautiful quilts that she made, and she's had this to say about them. These art quilts are from a series expressing the process of emerging. In these pieces, there is a transitional place of chaos and deconstruction between an orderly linear foundation and an organic, spontaneous emergence. I have been going through this messy spiritual process a while, questioning what I was certain of, feeling frustration and grief as so much of my foundation broke apart, but growing out of the confusion into a season of new life, hope, and peace. All three phases exist simultaneously. As much as I would like to remove the mess and escape constraints, they are as much a part of my story as the free-flowing beauty that is emerging. The challenge lies in integrating, even celebrating the structure, the freedom, and the chaos. Dreaming is my masterpiece in this series. The quilt features the image of a young woman with her eyes closed. The dreamer is surrounded by confusion, yet is at peace, hoping, but without knowing for sure there is something beautiful emerging from the tangle. It isn't a rebuilding of the brick-like foundation, although some of those structures remain. The chaos never entirely resolves, but rather than destroying, it generates creativity and life. Allie George created an abstract piece covered with small squiggly elements, and she had this to say about that. So here I am. The beginning of a new creative time is ahead. What a journey. Sometimes I kept up and other times I ebbed and flowed, and it was okay because I've learned to be okay. I had a deadline approaching for a show entry, and about 6 weeks into the course, I found myself revisiting the concept and the execution of that entry. Watershed/shower scene explores the ordinariness of taking a shower, our Western culture practice of washing as frequently as society dictates, something we rarely even think about. This was set against the reality of how many millions and billions of people do not have access to running water or a shower. Images of bacteria, the little squiggles, represent what privileged Western society scrubs away, while at the same time, bacteria contributes to quite different life outcomes, disease, and a higher mortality rate for millions of others. This content was not what I originally planned as an interpretation of the theme, redirecting the ordinary, but it was what needed to be. My quilt didn't get accepted into the exhibition, but I wrote to the curator to reassure her it was not a failure. Rather, the best work I felt I had created to date. I think she was pleasantly surprised, and now it's touring in another exhibition. Joyce Ritter wrote, "My 3 mantras are making time, taking time, use what you have, and go for the wow. As long as I stick with these, I find the content falls into place on its own. When my friend Roma's cancer came back, I was working on Lonely, a single house on a hillside. Life imitates art. People stopped calling, and Roma was trapped in her home by her illness. I was part of the caretaking process, and I knew that Roma's daughter wanted her mother to talk to the chaplain. Roma was not an introspective person, so the talk was uncomfortable. I stayed true to the make-take time idea, and I went to work on another quilt, Leaving, an open door that opened in and showed the garden beyond. I shared it with her. It's much brighter than I expected, she said, and the conversation took off. I made another piece, Passage. For some reason, I left the format size I'd picked for the series and went really big to include 2 gold doors opening out, whereas the other doors had opened in, with the word "ah" in the center of the opening. Lots and lots of wow quilting, gold mesh and metallic threads. I mean, I went for awesome. Roma's comment, again, "It's bigger than I expected," to which I was able to respond, "Next to our birth, it's the biggest thing that ever happens to us." And again, we were able to talk. I was with Roma, her daughter, and her daughter's partner as she died. It was a peaceful death. I like to think that quilts helped in some small way. And since the make-take routine was embedded in me at that point, I was able to go to my studio and mourn. I made a whole cloth quilt with just a little bit of paint. It seemed fitting after the loss of one of my best friends to work with basic needle and thread. Of course, being who I am, I had to overdo the thread, but it was a great tribute to a great friend. Ann Ongurth wrote, "It may have seemed as if I'd lost interest, but to my amazement, I found I was just bored with fabric. After dyeing 40 yards of cotton, I stopped and considered my intention. To piece was out. It was so slow, I was sick of it. I have millions of ideas running through my head when I'm laboriously sewing cloth or putting it in the washing machine. Too bad, because I just bought a new Janome sewing machine. The work I did in the past was becoming 3-dimensional. At times, I hated how fabrics fade. After reviewing my work and seeing even more fading, I decided this was no longer my direction. I also love to learn new things. There's an excitement in handling new materials and tools. My very capable hands want to build, erect, and birth. For the last month, I've been taking ceramics and loving it. It's my second time around with clay, and I'm burning with ideas, exactly what I hoped studying this course would accomplish. And now I can apply the assignments to my new mediums." Conclusion. What does not exist looks so handsome. What does exist, where is it? An ocean is hidden. All we see is foam, shapes of dust, spinning tall as minarets. But I want wind. Dust can't rise up without wind, I know. But can't I understand this by some way other than induction? Invisible ocean and wind, visible foam and dust, this is speech. Why can't we hear thought? These eyes were born asleep. Why organize a universe this way? With the merchant close by, a magician measures out 500 ells of linen moonlight. It takes all his money, but the merchant buys the lot. Suddenly there's no linen, and of course there's no money, which was his life spent wrongly. and yours. Say, save me, thou one, from witches who tie knots and blow on them. They're tying them again. Prayers are not enough. You must do something. 3 companions for you. Number 1, what you own. He won't even leave the house for some danger you could be in. He stays inside. Number 2, your good friend. He at least comes to the funeral. He stands and talks at the graveside. No further. The 3rd companion, what you do, your work, goes down into death to be there with you and to help. Take deep refuge with that companion beforehand. Written by Rumi and translated by Coleman Barks.